My girlfriend's best friend said, "He was here before you, and he's more important than you," after I asked him to be respectful during an argument. When I walked away, she showed up crying at my door, but is it already too late? I'm not a writer, so bear with me. Never thought I'd be posting here, but recent events have left me questioning a lot of things, and I could use some outside perspective. For context, I'm a 43-year-old general contractor, divorced 6 years ago with one teenage daughter who lives with her mom. I've been dating Allison, 39F, for just over a year. We met when I was renovating the coffee shop she manages. Classic stuff. She'd bring me coffee, we'd chat during my breaks, and eventually, I asked her out. We hit it off immediately. Similar sense of humor, both outdoorsy, both previously married with no interest in doing that again anytime soon. It's been good, comfortable, but not boring. At least, that's what I thought. Enter Kevin, 41M, Allison's best friend since college. According to her, they briefly dated sophomore year, decided they were better as friends, and have been inseparable ever since. He was the man of honor at her wedding, helped her through her divorce, and is basically a fixture in her life. I've met Kevin plenty of times over the past year, usually in group settings, game nights, barbecues, birthday parties. He's always been fine. Not particularly friendly toward me, but not openly hostile either. Just kind of watchful, like he's evaluating whether I'm good enough for Allison. I've made efforts to get to know him, but he keeps a polite distance. Here's where things went sideways. Last weekend, Allison hosted a dinner party at her place. Nothing fancy, just a few friends over for steaks on the grill. I arrived early to help set up. Kevin was already there, standing in Allison's kitchen like he owned the place, mixing drinks and giving her cooking advice. No big deal, I figured. They're close, it's normal. The evening was going well, good food, good conversation. After dinner, we all moved to the back deck. Someone brought up politics, always a mistake, and Kevin and I realized we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Not extreme either way, just different perspectives. The conversation stayed civil, but it was clear we disagreed. I wasn't being aggressive, just stating my views when asked. But with each point I made, Kevin would look at Allison like he was expecting her to jump in and correct me. When she didn't, his tone got sharper, more dismissive. Finally, after one particularly condescending comment, I said, "Look, man, we can disagree without the attitude. We're all adults here." You'd think I'd slapped him. His face went red, and he turned to Allison. "Are you going to let him talk to me like that?" Before she could answer, I said, "I'm talking to you, not her. And I'm just asking for basic respect." Kevin stood up, drink in hand. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about." "Never have. Allison knows it too. She's just too nice to say it." I looked at Allison, expecting her to diffuse the situation or at least not take sides. Instead, she was staring at Kevin with this worried expression, like he was a bomb about to go off. "Kevin, he didn't mean anything by it," she said, her voice placating. "The hell I didn't," I countered. "I meant exactly what I said. We can disagree without being disrespectful." The deck fell silent. The other guests looked uncomfortable. Kevin set down his drink with exaggerated care. "I think I'm going to head out. Call me later, Al." Then he walked through the house and left, slamming the front door. Allison immediately got up and followed him inside. I could hear their low voices, but couldn't make out the words. When she came back, she was visibly upset. "What was that about?" I asked when she sat down. "Not now," she muttered, then plastered on a smile for our remaining guests. The rest of the night was strained. After everyone left, I started helping clean up. That's when Allison pulled me into the kitchen, arms crossed. "You need to apologize to Kevin," she said without preamble. I nearly dropped the plates I was carrying. "Excuse me. You embarrassed him in front of everyone. You need to apologize." I set the plates down carefully. "Allison, he was being condescending and dismissive. If anyone owes an apology, it's him." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Kevin doesn't handle conflict well. He feels attacked. And I feel disrespected," I countered. "Has it occurred to you that your best friend might not like your boyfriend very much?" "That's not true," she said, but her eyes slid away from mine. "He's just protective." "Protective? I'm not a threat to you. And even if I were, you're a grown woman who can make her own decisions." She shifted uncomfortably. "Look, this is simple. You need to apologize to him, or we're done." I stared at her, not quite believing what I was hearing. "You're giving me an ultimatum over a disagreement with your friend? That's when she dropped the bomb that changed everything. He was here before you, and he's more important than you. The words hung in the air between us. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, not because of what she said, but because of how matter-of-factly she said it. Like it was obvious. Like I should have known all along that I was second place. I didn't raise my voice, didn't argue, just looked at her for a long moment, absorbing the truth of where I stood in her life. Then I grabbed my keys from the counter, walked out to my truck, and drove away. She called after me, but I didn't look back. When I got home, my phone was already buzzing with texts from Allison. "Where did you go? We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. Please come back so we can discuss this like adults." I turned my phone off and went to bed. Slept surprisingly well for a man whose relationship had just imploded. The next morning, I had a dozen missed calls and more texts. I read them but didn't respond. Went to work, focused on a bathroom remodel that needed my attention. Came home, watched a game, ordered pizza. Life goes on. By day 3, the calls had slowed down, but the texts had gotten more desperate. I wasn't ignoring her out of spite. I just needed time to think, to process what had happened and what it meant. That evening, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Allison standing there, eyes red-rimmed, clutching her purse like a life preserver. I considered not answering, but that seemed cowardly. And whatever else I am, I'm not a coward. So I opened the door, but remained in the doorway. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small. "I don't think that's a good idea. Please. I need to explain." I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked in and sat on my couch, the same spot where we'd watched countless movies, where she'd fallen asleep on my shoulder, where we'd made love on lazy Sunday afternoons. Now she looked like a stranger. "I'm sorry," she began. "What I said was horrible. I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did," I replied evenly. "That's why it hurt so much. Because you meant it." She started crying then, quiet tears tracking through her makeup. "I've known him so long. He's like family. I can't lose him. And I understand that. What I don't understand is why keeping him means losing me. Why it can't be both." "It can be," she insisted. "I was just upset. You two are the most important men in my life." I sat down across from her, not on the couch, but in the armchair, creating distance. "No, I'm not. You made that very clear. And that's okay, Allison. You're allowed to prioritize whoever you want in your life. But so am I. And I can't be with someone who sees me as disposable." "You're not disposable," she cried. "I love you. Do you? Or do you love how I fit into your life when Kevin approves? Because the moment I disrupted that balance, you were ready to throw me away." She had no answer for that. "Has he always disliked me?" I asked. "Or just since things got serious between us?" She looked down at her hands. "He worries that you'll hurt me like my ex did. So he appointed himself your permanent guardian? And you've let him?" "It's not like that," she protested, but weakly. "Isn't it? Be honest, Allison. Has he ever liked anyone you've dated?" The silence was my answer. "I deserve better than this," I said finally. "And so do you, by the way. A real friendship wouldn't hold you hostage. A real friend would want you to be happy, even if that meant sharing your attention." She started crying harder then, told me she'd had a huge fight with Kevin after I left, that she'd realized some things about their friendship that had been bothering her subconsciously for years, that she wanted another chance with me. Part of me wanted to give in, to hold her and say we'd figure it out. But a larger part, the part that remembered her cold statement about who mattered more, held firm. "I think we need some time apart," I said. "I need to decide if I can be in a relationship where I'll always be second best. And you need to decide if you're ready for a relationship where you aren't constantly deferring to someone else's judgment." She left reluctantly after extracting a promise that I would at least think about giving us another chance. I promised I would think about it. And I have been. It's been 5 days now. Allison has texted every day, not pressuring, just checking in. Apparently, Kevin is furious with her for choosing me over him, even though she hasn't actually done that. Just questioning their dynamic was enough to trigger a meltdown on his part. Her sister called me yesterday, said she's been trying to tell Allison for years that her relationship with Kevin wasn't healthy, that he didn't want to be with her romantically but couldn't stand seeing her with anyone else, that this was a pattern they'd all watched repeat with every boyfriend since college. I don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me loves her and thinks maybe we could work through this. Another part knows that old patterns are hard to break, and she's had 20 years to normalize this bizarre friendship. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. getting some clarity by myself, remembering that I'd rather be alone than be someone's second choice. I'll update if anything significant changes. Thanks for reading this far. Edit. Wow, woke up to hundreds of comments. Thanks for the support and advice, everyone. To answer some common questions. No, I don't think Kevin and Allison are sleeping together. This isn't about sex, it's about control. Some of you mentioned that I abandoned her at the dinner party. I left after everyone else had gone, and she'd made it clear where I stood in her priorities. I didn't strand her or create a scene. Many of you have asked if there were warning signs I missed. Looking back, yes. Kevin texted her constantly, often while we were together. She would always respond immediately. He had opinions about everything from what restaurants we should try to whether I was right for her. And there was that time he crashed our weekend getaway because he was in the area, 2 hours from where he lives. To those suggesting I'm being too hard on her, maybe. But I've been in one relationship where I wasn't a priority, my marriage. It took years of therapy to recognize my worth after that. I won't do it again. And yes, to clarify, we never lived together. Allison has her own apartment across town, which is why she showed up at my door rather than already being there. We discussed moving in together eventually, but weren't there yet. Update. 10 days later. Allison and I met for coffee yesterday. Neutral territory, a place downtown neither of us frequents. She looked tired but determined. She spoke first, telling me she'd been doing a lot of thinking and had some revelations about her friendship with Kevin. Apparently, after our argument, she started noticing things, how he subtly dictated her choices, how he created crises when she was focusing on other relationships, how he'd conditioned her to prioritize his feelings above everyone else's, including her own. She showed me texts he'd sent after their fight, manipulative, guilt-tripping messages about how she was throwing away 2 decades of friendship and choosing some contractor over family. Reading them made my skin crawl. This wasn't a friendship, it was emotional hostage-taking. The most telling part was when she admitted that Kevin had hated every man she'd ever dated, had actively sabotaged several relationships, had even told her ex-husband intimate details about her past specifically to create problems between them. And she'd always forgiven him, always maintained the friendship, always put him first. I don't want to live like that anymore, she told me. I've already talked to a therapist. I have my first appointment next week. I told her I was proud of her for recognizing the unhealthy dynamic, but that I needed to protect myself too. We agreed to take things very slowly, casual dates, no pressure, while she works through her issues with professional help. Kevin, predictably, has escalated. When cutting her off emotionally didn't work, he tried a new tactic, showing up at her workplace, sending flowers, acting like the perfect friend who just wants her happiness. Classic manipulation. To her credit, Allison has maintained firm boundaries. She told him they needed space and that their friendship would need to change fundamentally if it were to continue at all. I'm cautiously optimistic, but proceeding with eyes wide open. Some of you warned me to run for the hills, and I understand that perspective. But I've seen how hard she's working to break free from this dysfunctional relationship, and that counts for something. We'll update again when there's more to share. Update. 1 month later. Things have progressed in unexpected ways. Allison has been consistent with therapy and has maintained boundaries with Kevin, who responded by alternating between love bombing and rage, classic abuser tactics. The final straw came last week when he showed up drunk at her apartment, demanding to be let in, yelling that I had brainwashed her. She called the police, they removed him, and she filed a restraining order the next day. It was painful for her, but also clarifying. She told me, it was like finally seeing the full picture after years of looking at individual puzzle pieces. She's been connecting with friends she drifted away from during Kevin's reign. His possessiveness had slowly isolated her over the years. As for us, we're dating again, taking it slow. I've attended a therapy session with her to better understand how to support her without overstepping. Her therapist explained that breaking free from a codependent relationship is like deprogramming from a cult. It takes time and patience. Kevin has apparently moved on to trying to turn mutual friends against her, with limited success. Most people have seen his true colors now, particularly those who witnessed his behavior firsthand. A few close friends have even reached out to apologize for not saying something sooner. That said, some mutual acquaintances have taken his side, believing his twisted version of events. Allison says that's been difficult but also revealing, showing her who her real friends are. Kevin's workplace, he and Allison work for different companies, thankfully, has also gotten involved after he repeatedly tried to contact her through their business email. Her HR department documented the incidents and helped her establish professional boundaries, including blocking his email domain and alerting front desk security about the restraining order. I'm impressed by Allison's strength through all this. Recognizing and addressing toxic patterns isn't easy, especially long-standing ones. Whether or not our relationship goes the distance, I'm grateful we've both learned important lessons about healthy boundaries and self-respect. For those who suggested I should have just apologized to keep the peace, this was never about politics or a minor disagreement. It was about a fundamental imbalance in how she valued our relationship versus her unhealthy attachment to Kevin. Sometimes walking away is the only thing that breaks the spell. Final update: 6 months later, Allison and I are still together, and things are better than they've ever been. She's continued with therapy, which has helped her recognize and address other patterns beyond just her relationship with Kevin. The restraining order expired, but Kevin has largely stayed away. He's apparently started a campaign to rewrite history among their mutual friends, casting himself as the victim who was replaced. Few are buying it. Those who witnessed his behavior at the dinner party and afterward have a pretty clear picture of the dynamic. Allison has apologized multiple times for what she said that night, but I've told her actions speak louder than words. And her actions have consistently shown that she's committed to building a healthy relationship based on mutual respect and appropriate boundaries. We're moving in together next month. Taking that step feels right now in a way it wouldn't have 6 months ago. We've had our share of disagreements since that night, but they're different now. We talk things through as equals, without outside interference. To the person who commented that you can't compete with history, you're right. But that's not what this was about. It was about recognizing that history isn't always healthy just because it's familiar. Sometimes the longest relationships in our lives are the most damaging. Thanks to everyone who offered advice and support during a difficult time. Sometimes standing your ground and knowing your worth is the best form of self-care. And sometimes it gives others the courage to stand their ground too. Looking back on the whole situation, I realize how much I've grown as well. After my divorce, I thought I knew what I wanted in a relationship. Now I understand that knowing what I don't want, what I won't accept, is equally important. Allison and I talk openly about our expectations now. We don't avoid difficult conversations or sweep things under the rug. It's not always easy, but it's real in a way my previous relationships never were. I've thought a lot about that night, about what would have happened if I'd just apologized to Kevin to keep the peace. We might still be together, sure, but it would be the same old pattern. Me feeling like I was walking on eggshells around her friendship, Allison constantly torn between us, and Kevin gradually manipulating the situation until I was pushed out entirely. By walking away, I broke the cycle. Sometimes losing someone is the only way to know if they're yours to keep. My daughter came to visit last weekend and met Allison for the second time. They hit it off immediately, making plans for a hiking trip together without me even having to facilitate the conversation. Watching them laugh together, I felt a wave of gratitude for everything that's happened, even the painful parts. Because in the end, this isn't just a story about winning or losing a relationship. It's about finding your spine, knowing your value, and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that self-respect isn't selfish, it's necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to show them what real love looks like. Not control disguised as protection, not ownership masked as history, but partnership, equality, and the freedom to grow together without chains. Allison and I aren't perfect. We still have work to do. But for the first time in my life, I'm in a relationship where I feel like an equal partner, not someone trying to earn a place at the table. And that's worth fighting for.